Hi, this is Abby Schragi, and this is my presentation on 17.2, the case of Olivia. So first of all, just considering the diagnosis that I'm considering at the beginning of this case, given that Olivia is an elderly woman who was found and she had been lost, alarmed, confused, and was showing a lack of attention and focus. The possibilities that I thought for a diagnosis was major neurocognitive disorder due to Alzheimer's disease or a major neurocognitive disorder due to another medical condition. Another one that I thought was a possibility would be delirium due to another medical condition. And finally, just a non-diagnosis would be possibly the effects of aging. After the case progresses, my initial assumption at this point would be major neurocognitive disorder due to Alzheimer's disease or due to another medical condition. For some reason, I always, with an elderly person that shows signs of memory or just different deficits in the cognitive realm, I assume that. So this case was really good because it helped me realize that I can't always assume that, which is definitely challenging to understand the differences. So other than contacting a family member, there were other resources that I would want to involve at this point. Legal, I would want to contact the authorities to report Olivia as a possibly lost or missing individual and also check her legal history, if any. Medically, I would want her to have an evaluation and physical done to check for her state of health after being lost for 6 days, as she could be dehydrated, malnutritioned, and anything else that could have happened to her during that time, and also check for pre-existing conditions or harm done to her. Based on the interaction with Mrs. Joyner, who is Olivia's daughter-in-law, I would actually change my diagnosis to delirium due to another medical condition. I would do this because her daughter-in-law was saying that Olivia was sharp as a nail and routinely traveled to the city, handled her money, and was capable of independently taking care of herself. Thus, I would be left to believe that this was a very quick onset, which delirium fell under, and NCDs seem to be more progressive onsets. My final diagnosis for Olivia would be unspecified delirium. This was very difficult for me to decipher if it would be delirium due to a medical condition, this possible stroke, unspecified delirium, or major neurocognitive disorder due to a vascular disease or vascular event. I ended up choosing delirium over an NCD because the disturbance developed over a very short period of time, usually hours to a few days, which it seemed like in Olivia's case, a few days, represented a change from a baseline. She expressed a disturbance in attention, orientation to environment, especially, and cognition, and it seemed like her state fluctuated somewhat. I chose unspecified versus due to another medical condition for delirium because the test results on the medical condition were not final or definitive, and I felt like we still needed more information to make a more accurate diagnosis. She was only in the emergency room, and they were just at the very initial test results stage when this case ended. If the medical results did return definitive and it was due to a stroke, I would change the diagnosis to delirium due to another medical condition, because at that point there would be evidence from the history, physical examination, or laboratory findings that the disturbance was a direct physiological consequence of another medical condition. And finally, the psychosocial and cultural factors as V or Z codes that would apply to this case. I had a little bit of trouble figuring out which ones would apply here, but the ones that I found that I thought were related were wandering associated with a mental disorder and an encounter for general examination without complaint, suspected, or reported diagnosis, since Olivia was going to be having a physical medical examination. So that's what I found relevant. And here are my references. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this case presentation on Olivia, and it was definitely a challenging one for myself.